I'm Ian MacLean, and today I'd like to talk to you about the ISM Code, its objectives and how those objectives are achieved. Now, very simply, the ISM Code has the objective of reducing the risk to personnel through injury, reducing the likelihood of pollution to the environment, and preventing damage to property. But that doesn't really tell us how the code works. Now, in order to answer the question of how the code works, I think it assists to go back in time to understand what mischief it was that the code set out to cure. Why was it thought that there was a need to have this code? If we go back to the 1970s, early 1980s, it was considered in the shipping industry that so long as you had competent crew and the equipment on board was properly maintained and well looked after, that was all you needed for a safe operation. However, towards the end of the 1980s and the beginning of the 1990s, there were a number of shipping disasters, most notably three ferry shipping disasters: the Herald of Free Enterprise, the Scandinavian Star, and the Salem Express. On these ships, the crew were properly qualified, they'd been trained, the equipment was certified, class had passed it all, yet still the accidents happened. Insurers, P&I clubs, Hull and Machinery became concerned at the way at which claims were rising. They looked at this and discovered that it was the human element, that it wasn't enough to have people with the correct qualifications and the right equipment, that people had to be doing the job properly, that it was about procedures, and what was needed were documented management procedures that told people what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. So the ISM Code, which is actually a remarkably short document, simply sets these objectives of prevention of pollution, protection of personnel, protection of property, and then it says to the people responsible for maintaining the ship and looking after it, it is your job to write the procedures to achieve these objectives. So whereas the legislation that existed prior to the ISM Code was very prescriptive, the Safety of Life at Sea Convention, the MARPOL Convention would tell you what equipment you had to have on board and how it should work, the ISM Code simply said you must write procedures to ensure the vessel and those on board it are safe. So, by way of example, where we have to go into an enclosed space, we would need procedures for making sure the atmosphere is safe. Is there sufficient oxygen? Has there been any chemical in there? Does it need to be tested for that? Is it well lit? Is it well ventilated? And then when we go into that space, we need people to monitor those that are inside the space to make sure that they're safe. And we need equipment standing by, ready to rescue people who may be overcome by a pocket of air where there's no oxygen or a poisonous gas. In addition, that equipment needs to be properly maintained, properly serviced, and looked after. So all of these procedures require that the people on board know what their jobs are, they know what their responsibilities, their authorities and their reporting lines are, and also that they keep a paper record or a computer record of what they've done, so this can be audited to make sure that they are following the procedures that are required. Now, you may ask, why is a lawyer talking to you about this? Well, the answer to that is relatively simple. There is an obligation under most contracts of carriage that the carrier exercise due diligence to ensure the vessel is seaworthy. Now note, this is not an absolute obligation of seaworthiness. Due diligence is doing our best. What would someone with our qualifications and our experience do to ensure that we meet the necessary requirements? When the ISM Code first came in, a lot of people worried that all these audit checklists and paperwork would actually go against the vessel owner, that it would be evidence that things hadn't been done properly. The reality is the opposite. These checklists and these logbook entries required by the ISM Code now makes it a lot easier for us, the lawyers working for ship owners, to demonstrate that due diligence has been exercised to make the vessel as seaworthy as possible. And it's for that reason that when people are preparing the paperwork, it's important that it's filled out properly and competently and on time.